I find it concerning that we live in a society where many couples face substantial financial pressure, often necessitating both spouses to work. Many working mothers would prefer the opportunity to stay at home with their children if circumstances allowed. The frustration and resentment expressed by some who identify as feminists stem from the perceived inevitability of competing with these women and their perceived value in relationships or marriages. This perspective also highlights the belief that modern women lack the ethical standards, self-respect, or commitment to compete with their more traditionally minded counterparts.
For those who question the role of traditional wives, it's worth reflecting on the extent of their mother's involvement in their upbringing and how it impacted their current lives. Did having more or less guidance and affection from their mothers lead to positive or negative outcomes? This same line of thinking applies to the presence of fathers in the home. Having strong, traditional, caring, and involved parents is often considered a crucial factor in setting the stage for a successful life. I hope to emulate at least half of the parenting skills my own parents provided while growing up. Nevertheless, I acknowledge that society's outlook is mixed. It's fascinating to observe how people sometimes assume that others' decisions and choices somehow reflect judgments on them. Opting for a different path doesn't necessarily mean you're criticizing someone else's choices, trad wives, and why they're better. Traditional wives, or any form of a traditional marital arrangement, should ideally be founded on mutual love and respect. It's essential to understand your traditional roles, but this doesn't mean you can never deviate from them when necessary. What appears to have diminished over time is the aspect of respect, both for oneself and for others. Critics of traditional gender roles for women often fail to consider their impact on men. Men, in such arrangements, bear the responsibility of financially supporting the family, covering expenses for housing, food, education, taxes, transportation, and property maintenance, among other things. If anyone can be perceived as having a challenging role in this setup, it's often the man. Nevertheless, many couples in these traditional relationships report contentment and satisfaction. Women who have chosen not to pursue marriage may sometimes find themselves wondering why they remain unmarried. Their dissatisfaction with their own life choices can lead to frustration when others find happiness. Some individuals engage in self-deception and project their unhappiness onto others, attempting to make them as miserable as they are. However, they can change the trajectory of their lives by considering that they might be mistaken. Women have various options in life, including embracing a less stressful role as a housewife, contributing to the next generation, exploring creative ways to manage their households, or pursuing ambitious career goals. Men have made similar choices for themselves, so why should we take away women's freedom to decide and subject them to shame? Ultimately, this issue often stems from an inability to find happiness, contentment, satisfaction, or gratitude. It can manifest even in simple decisions like ordering from a restaurant menu, not to mention major life choices such as opting for a traditional family role or pursuing a career. Some individuals always seem to prefer what others have chosen. Consequently, they resent those who make different choices. This attitude can be quite difficult to tolerate. What feminists are afraid of? The disdain expressed by some who identify as feminists likely arises from the fear of having to compete with women who choose traditional roles if this trend gains popularity. Interestingly, I've noticed that this whole debate over traditional wives seems to be primarily an American issue. In other cultures, people don't seem to argue against the concept of traditional wives. In fact, it remains a common and unquestioned choice. From a psychological perspective, those who take issue with traditional wives might consider how much their own mothers were involved in their upbringing, and how this has influenced their current state. Reflecting on whether more or less guidance and love from their mothers led to positive or negative outcomes can shed light on their attitudes. Similarly, the role of fathers in the home can have a significant impact on individuals' paths to leading successful lives. In the age of social media, where over half of the world's population is connected through various devices and platforms, individuals express their opinions on a vast array of topics. Literally, billions of opinions and their myriad variations can be found online, and the comment sections are often filled with diverse and sometimes extreme perspectives. Traditional wives typically come from households with a traditional upbringing, where they are taught to excel as wives and mothers. This isn't a trend that can be casually adopted, as it's deeply ingrained in their upbringing. Authentic traditional wives often lead busy lives, focused on their families, and may not prioritize making TikTok videos or seeking validation from strangers online. Instead, they find validation from their husbands and children. In the past, feminism aimed at achieving equality of opportunity between genders. However, it has evolved into more of a hive mindset among modern women. Many feel compelled to conform to whatever trends other women around the world are following, fearing they won't be seen as the strong, independent individuals they aspire to be. Original feminism. The initial idea behind feminism was to empower women to choose the roles they wanted in life. Whether that meant pursuing a career, becoming a traditional wife, or finding a balance between the two, it was all encouraged. It's essential for people to focus on their own lives and strive to be the best they can be. Therefore, it's unjustifiable for modern women to criticize traditional wives, as this goes against the original principles of feminism. Instead of limiting women's choices, feminism should continue to support diverse lifestyles and personal decisions. Unfortunately, in some cases, feminism has shifted away from empowering all women to make choices freely, now sometimes pressuring women to reject traditional roles in favor of corporate careers. One of the fundamental flaws I identified in feminism is its tendency to limit women's choices, particularly in choosing a traditional lifestyle. Not all women aspire to have careers or compete with men in the workplace. Many have found contentment in taking care of their homes and children, and this was once considered an equitable arrangement by both genders. However, a turning point for many traditional wives occurs when they are influenced by feminism and encouraged to pursue careers. Paradoxically, these career-oriented feminists often find themselves unhappy and divorced, with men sometimes not taking them seriously. This creates a divide, as even feminists themselves may not be interested in dating men they perceive as simps. What perplexes me about career-oriented women in the Western world is their tendency to bring their professional titles and assertiveness home. In the family environment, where you have a partner and children to nurture, taking on the role of a boss can be counterproductive. Cooperation and shared responsibilities can make a family stronger in the long run, as statistics have shown. This is why some men are increasingly interested in marrying women from more traditional cultures, where they balance successful careers with traditional family values. The lesson: we are at a point where society's dynamics aren't working as well as they could. It's essential to embrace our inherent natures and be content with who we are. Men can thrive as breadwinners, respecting and appreciating their wives for keeping their children happy. Wives can excel as partners for life, offering intimacy, companionship, and family support. Ironically, in today's society, women who participate in platforms like OnlyFans, revealing themselves to thousands of strangers online, receive applause, while those who desire to be stay-at-home wives face criticism. Modern women often perceive themselves as strong and independent, but many struggle with finding true purpose in life, namely having a family. There's a stark contrast when modern women advocate for being liked for who they are while often valuing men based on their possessions. These strong, independent individuals might not cope well with the love men typically receive, leading them to demand their shallow existence back if they were to switch roles. It's perplexing to witness feminists becoming agitated by the idea of women choosing traditional roles. In today's society, you'll find extremes, from strong, independent feminists who prioritize career success to women who wholeheartedly embrace traditional values, focusing on family, home, and a contented life, without relying on income from online sources. Ultimately, it boils down to this: if promoting traditional values is criticized for unfairly restricting the choices of some women, then it's equally valid to consider that promoting leftist values could have a similarly limiting effect on women who find fulfillment in traditional ways. Critics of the traditional lifestyle often fail to acknowledge their own potential to be equally detrimental, revealing a significant bias in their perspective. And that's it for today on Sigma Traits. Make sure you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you can be the first to know when my new video drops. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you all tomorrow.